Another question concerning validation that came in. Is it still possible to use your own validation library like jQuery validation on forms instead of the built-in validation JS?
Again, in this respect, you'd have to kind of override our macro, kind of use your own guy to do that. The nice thing about our guy is if you come in here and we go to a page and you're inside of a container, you could add a form here. So anywhere on any container, you could do new content, reuse, add, and you just hit add form. You could see the form, you select him, and it's very easy for the end user to use this. If you could directly call the macro for you guys that like to do that kind of stuff. If you want to directly call the macro, you could override our macro, or you could change what we're doing and provide it. But again, at that point, by the time you're in rewriting JavaScript and messing with the validation, you're going to have to get in and mess with the macro.
Concerning upgrade, one user was questioning whether they have to be 1.7 or they have to be 1.6.5, and then another user who is an enterprise user wants to know about how upgrade is going to affect them.
Okay, definitely if you're coming from a version prior to 1.7, I would recommend that you upgrade to 1.7 before going to 1.9. In theory, it would work. I don't know that. I mean, we're not. To be honest, we're not really testing that particular scenario from versions prior to 1.7. If you're coming prior to 1.6.5, you definitely got to upgrade to 1.6.5 before going to 1.9. Coming from 1.6.5, though, you should be able to go right to 1.9. I still would recommend you get a 1.7 running and then get a 1.9 running from the 1.7 guy. It's just, it'll give you more control where if something happened in the 1.7 one, at least, okay, I know I can at least get to here, and then getting from here to here. It's a smaller step. It'd be easier to bug and figure out what's happening and what's going on. Again, that's a recommendation. In theory, you should be able to go from 1.6.5 to 1.9, but that's not the recommended and really it's not our supported path. If you were to ask us officially, the official answer is no, you go to 1.7. Technically, it should work, but again, I would recommend you do 1.7 and then 1.9. As far as the enterprise question, we are going to be releasing Enterprise 1.9. So in that respect, we will have a full supported, we will have an upgrade path as well there. And, that would be as far as the support team here and the help desk and the support desk here at dotCMS that be able to get you any questions answered on what it would take to get you upgraded. But it is treated as, it is an upgrade. I mean, again, the upgrade to 1.9 is definitely a big deal. It's not a small patch. It's not a couple of fixes that are going in. It is a full new version in that respect.
Thanks, JT. Some more questions came in about some more technical questions came in concerning are there going to be any new view tools or API methods that are going to be introduced with the 1.9 version?
Good question. There are new view tools, and off the top of my head, I can't tell you what they all are. But definitely, I know that there have been some, not a ton, but some view tools have been updated. In addition to that, API methods, there's definitely a ton of new stuff. Obviously, with all our new functionality and so forth, lots of new type APIs, if you're writing plugins, things of that nature, that can be done. One thing that I did not mention in our upgrade to 1.9 that's really important to mention, I just thought about it, so let me inject it here while everybody's still here. One of the problems that people have had in running dotCMS in larger type installs is you start having to give dotCMS, to keep it performant, you had to give dotCMS a good amount of memory to keep it fairly performant. And the bigger your site grew, and that was because the velocity objects needed to all be cached, and when you had to start hitting the DB a lot and things weren't in cache and things weren't prepared, the site would start to slow down, or certain pages would slow down, and we'd see memory even run out and so forth. Again, this was more bigger sites, larger sites, larger installs as you're getting into tons and tons of content. We have addressed the issue of dotCMS memory, and I believe have found this was improved for those that have been with us for a while. We saw great improvements in performance and speed under load in 165. We handled, there were some choke points that existed in the previous versions of 165. We got rid of them. We got rid of more in 1.7. And then what we found here, though, is then we started needing more memory to run larger sites. We have solved the issue by allowing all of our cache to live on the disk as well. So what this means is anything that gets put into cache, because dotCMS is very aggressive in caching. Many of you know we can, for the most part, you can run your front end if everything's in memory without even the database being there. The database could go down, and at least the front end of your site still keeps running. The advantage of all of our caching and our memory and so forth. Well, now we cache to the disk. So what this means is as we cache objects, they could live forever on the disk. Obviously, once you save a new version of that, it gets wiped, or a new one gets put in memory. But now your cache can survive a restart. For example, you shut down CMS, you start it again, the cache is still there. It'll load it from disk into memory as it needs it. In addition to that, it's no longer, well, we need to provide more memory to dotCMS so I can make sure that my cache I can fill everything in cache, because now the memory just overflows itself to the disk. And anything that's in memory lives on the disk as well, so that you're going to survive the restart there. And there are things that live on the disk that don't live in memory. So this space is very cheap. And nowadays, so hard drives are not a concern, but this provides huge, huge, huge performance benefits to dotCMS. And for those that have experienced in larger sites some of the memory issues that we're talking about, we have addressed them to the point that I believe that the solution has been found for 1.9.
Okay, so another couple of questions came in concerning the form handler. Will we still get the standard CSV report for web forms, or with 1.9, the new form handler, do they have to create their own
Sure.
own reports?
Sure. Well, you still could use the old form handler for what it's worth. It didn't go away. And in addition to that, it's just content. And obviously, anytime you search for content, I don't have any web page content in here. Let's find something I do have. You can always export this content right to Excel. So you could search back here for content and click your export, and you'll get that. So in that respect, you still have the same functionality. And you could, of course, just do a pull content on a page and display that report in any kind of fancy little HTML page you feel like doing. Secure that page behind the login, etc. So it gives you tons of flexibility.
Okay, a question came in concerning the new string ID, I guess the UUID they're speaking of. So you can move easily between hosts, content between different dotCMS instances, but most of that functionality be included in 2.0. Is there any functionality they can take advantage of right now? This user wants to know, or is most of the actual functionality that accompanies the UUID going to be coming out in 2.0?
Sure. And the answer is we don't have a UI for it. we technically have the backend pieces to make it happen, but it would have to be handled programmatically. So someone who was writing a plugin or some external pieces to dotCMS, plug in the database directly, you could certainly do something, but there is no UI to take advantage of right now. I imagine we'll see more of a push publishing API in 2.0. We'll see it in the UI, so we would have more utilities and things to help there. But again, without a doubt, someone who wanted to write a plugin and try their hand at Java a little bit here, we certainly have the infrastructure to support these kind of toolings now. And the community could certainly, or someone could certainly create a plugin for their organization, or if somebody needed to come to dotCMS and say, I need this to happen, where in the past it was, not that, I mean, we could find workarounds and we found ways to make it happen. We could directly create a plugin for you that would make this happen nowadays.